Imsa heads north of the border. Yes, it's time for the annual trip to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for the Chevrolet Grand Prix. This year's running will see the return of the MX-5 Cup to the Support Series docket, but we'll also see the absence of the GTP class. This is everything you need to know ahead of the Chevrolet Grand Prix. Mosport, yes, it's pronounced Mosport and not Mossport, has a long history behind it dating back to 1958. The British Empire Motor Club selected the 450-acre piece of land to build a course. The name Mosport, which is a contraction of motorsport, was coined and applied to the new business, which was named Mosport Limited. Mosport can often mistakenly be referred to as Mossport, and that's because of one of the infamous corners on this track, which is named Moss Corner, after the great Stirling Moss. A corner which is my personal favorite to watch a race from. But it was Alan Bunting that designed the track, and during the design phase, Stirling Moss saw the plans for this facility and liked them. However, he did recommend that the single radius carousel hairpin at the south end of the facility be changed to a 90-degree right-hander followed by another right-hander leading onto the back straightaway. Moss was convinced that this would be a much greater challenge for the drivers, as well as give any spectators at that end of the track much more entertaining action to watch. The two turns, 5A and 5B, have since become known as Moss Corner. By the May of 1961, the 3.9 kilometer or 2.4 mile 10-turn track was ready for racing, and it has seen no major configuration changes since it was built. Since opening, it's hosted just about every major form of motorsport, not just in North America, but in the world. IndyCar, Formula One, Can-Am, motorcycle racing, NASCAR, just about everything you can imagine as how to race at one point or another at Mosport. Imsa made its debut at the track in 1982 and has been a favorite among drivers whenever it's on the schedule. Notable here is that in 2012, the track's name was changed from Mosport to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, or CTMP, although many people still refer to it as Mosport. Now, Mosport is a quick and tricky track with lap times from the different classes ranging from about the 1 minute and 7 second mark for the LMP2s down to the 1 minute and 16 second mark for the GTD classes. The track has a ton of high-speed corners, but also has a few medium and even a low-speed corner mixed in there. The 170 feet of elevation change provides drivers even more of a challenge when coupled with corners that make the track resemble more of a roller coaster than that track map would lead you to initially believe. There are some good passing opportunities into Turn 3, otherwise known as Quebec Corner, Turn 5, which is Moss Corner, and down the long Mario Andretti straightaway. We also have seen some pretty insane passes into the final corner of the track, so it's worth keeping an eye on that as well. And since we're back to the 2-hour and 40-minute sprint race format, this is going to be a dash to the checkered flag right from the drop of the green. In this year's race, there are a number of storylines for you to keep an eye on. Perhaps the largest one being the GTP class not being present at this race, and the LMP2 class being the headlining class this year. This comes after some schedule changes which see Detroit come back to the calendar and a 5th Michelin Endurance Cup race added at Indianapolis. In addition to this, there are a number of GTP class drivers who are making the trip north to fill in LMP2 seats. This is all because of a conflict with the WEC race happening on the same weekend, so we're going to see drivers like Renger van de Zandvoort, Pipo Derani, Felipe Albuquerque, and Luis Delatraz all make the trip north. There's also a great battle brewing in the GTD Pro Class Championship hunt. After a bit of a stumble by Rexy at Watkins Glen, that GTD Pro Class Championship has been blown open a bit. Could we see that points battle tighten up even more this weekend? I think so. Now, I go into some more depth on these storylines in a recent episode that I did. I'll link that for you in the description. Taking a look at the BOP now, and it's only the GTD and GTD Pro BOP that we have to look at. We'll start off with Acura, who gained 10 kilograms of weight from where they were in this race last year. BMW has a 20 kilogram weight increase. Ferrari has gained 30 kilograms from last year to also go along with 2 liters more of fuel capacity. Lamborghini has gained 70 kilograms, consistent with what we've seen the last couple of rounds for them. with a 1mm smaller restrictor diameter and 2 liters less of fuel capacity. Lexus has gained 15 kilograms of weight, but also boasts a 1mm larger restrictor diameter and has 2 liters less of fuel capacity. McLaren continues with the trend of gaining weight as they've gained 45 kilograms of weight from last year. Mercedes has also gained weight 20 kilograms of weight to go along with a 0.5mm larger restrictor diameter, while Porsche has gained 20 kilograms of weight but also has 2 liters less of fuel capacity. All of the new cars to this year's Imsa grid, Aston Martin, Corvette, and Ford have no changes from last round out at Watkins Glen. This year we will see 35 cars take to the track, which is an increase of 1 from what we saw in 2023. They'll be spread across 3 classes, with 12 LMP2s, 9 GTD Pros, an increase of 4 from last year, and 14 GTD entries, which is the same as last year. 120 laps were turned by the victorious number 60 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura of Tom Blomqvist and Colin Braun in 2023. Colin will actually be back to defend his win overall when he competes with the 04 CrowdStrike Racing entry in this weekend's race. Speaking of that LMP2 class though, the last LMP2 winners at the track were Matt McMurray and Dalton Kellett in the PR1 Matheson Motorsports entry back in 2019. The other 2023 winners included Gar Robinson and Felipe Fraga in LMP3, who will be back to try and defend that win for a second year in a row, this time though in the LMP2 class. In GTD Pro was the number 3 Corvette of Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor. And finally in GTD it was the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW of Brian Sellers and Madison Snow, who will be trying to win here again for the first time in the GTD Pro class. Now there will be plenty of Canadian representation on the grid this year in the WeatherTech Championship. John Ferrano will compete in the number 8 Tower Motorsports entry, Parker Thompson in the number 12 Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Ore Fadani in the number 13 AWA Corvette, Roman DeAngelis in the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, Mikael Grenier in the number 32 Korthoff Preston Motorsports Mercedes, Kyle Marcelli in the number 45 Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Lamborghini, and Misha Goiberg in the number 78 Forte Racing Lamborghini. Now, the number 43 Porsche has a gold Canadian driver on its driver lineup, but with a question mark next to it. Now, there's only a few gold-rated Canadian drivers who aren't already competing in this race, so it's pretty easy to narrow down. Here, though, I think the most likely candidates are probably Garrett Grist or Mark Wilkins. Considering many of the others are already running, they have factory ties with a manufacturer that isn't Porsche, or have another racing commitment this weekend. Now, all of these drivers that I listed off a moment ago don't even touch on the Canadian teams that are on the grid. AWA, Pfaff Motorsports. And I recently learned via their X account that Tower Motorsports are also apparently located in Toronto. But the point that I'm trying to make in all of this, though, is there are a ton of hometown drivers and teams that are going to be competing for the win in their home race. So if you're looking for hometown entries to cheer for, then you got plenty to choose from. Taking a quick peek at the weather now, on Friday and Saturday, the weather looks pretty darn nice, 25 and 26 degrees Celsius respectively. That's 77 and 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And on Sunday, it gets a little bit warmer, but there is a chance of showers, a 40% chance of showers, a high of 27 Celsius, which is 81 degrees Fahrenheit. In terms of my picks for the weekend, I think I'd have my passport revoked if I didn't go with some Canadian teams and drivers to win this one. So with that in mind, in LMP2, give me the number 8 Tower Motorsports entry. They've looked a little off so far this season, but with Renger van de Zande joining their lineup, I think they are going to be a force in the LMP2 class. In GTD Pro, well, it has to be Pfaff. Period. No doubt about it. And they just might be bringing back the plaid this weekend. I mean, I don't know, but they have a special event scheduled at a Canadian Tire on the Wednesday before the race, so sure seems like something's up there. Anyways, in GTD, well, there's actually a ton of strong candidates to choose from here. But give me the 45 Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini, who features Canadian Kyle Marcelli, for no reason other than pure gut feel. Let's take a quick look at the point standings presented by P1 Web Development. If you're looking for a custom website, then look no further than P1 Web Development. You can check them out by heading to p1webdevelopment.com or clicking the first link in the description. Here we have the number 74 Riley Motorsports entry leading with 958 points. That is just 6 points ahead of the number 18 Era Motorsports entry. In third place, we see the number 52 Inter Europol by PR1 Matheson Motorsports entry, followed by the number 22 United Autosports entry, and rounding out the top 5 is the 04 CrowdStrike Racing by APR. In GTD Pro, well, it's still led by Rex in the number 77 AO Racing Porsche, who have 1,632 points. The gap is closed, though, to the number 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus, who are just 49 points behind, and the number 23 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, who are 60 points behind them. Rounding out the top 5 is the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW, and the number 9 Pfaff Motorsports McLaren. In GTD, it's the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes. Goodness gracious, they have 1,745 points. That is 305 points ahead of the number 96 Turner Motorsports BMW. Rounding out the top 5 are the 34 Conquest Racing Ferrari, the 32 Korthoff Preston Motorsports Mercedes, and the number 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche. There's plenty of racing on this weekend at CTMP, and it all gets kicked off on Saturday with the VP Racing Fuel Sports Car Challenge. They take to the track for race 1 of the weekend at 8:45 a.m. Then you can catch that on Imsa TV or Peacock. Next up at 1:20 p.m. Eastern Time is the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series for the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park 120. You can catch that 2-hour race on Imsa TV or Peacock. At 3:55 p.m. Eastern Time, it will be WeatherTech Championship qualifying on Imsa TV and Peacock. And rounding out the day at 4:55 p.m. Eastern Time will be race 1 for the Whelen Mazda MX-5 Cup. You can catch that on Imsa TV. Turn things over to Sunday, and it's the WeatherTech Championship that's going to be kicking us off here. At 11 a.m. Eastern Time, the Chevrolet Grand Prix will take place, and you can catch that on Imsa TV, Peacock, USA Network, and on Imsa's YouTube channel. After that, at 2:25 p.m. Eastern Time will be the Whelen Mazda MX-5 Cup for race 2 of their weekend. And then at 3:30 the weekend wraps up with the final race for the VP Sports Car Challenge, which you can catch on Imsa TV and Peacock. Now I think that just about wraps up everything you need to know for Imsa's trip north of the border, but you can check out this video for even more information on the storylines you need to follow this weekend. Huge shout out to all the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, then you can head to patreon.com/offtheS's or click the join button below. Once again though, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.